Yes, good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening, sir.
Can you start reading Rule 9? We're going to discuss Rule 9 today. Can you start reading the first paragraph, please?
Rule 9, narrow channel. A. A vessel proceeding along the course of a narrow channel or fairway shall keep as near to the outer limit of the channel or fairway which lies on the starboard side as is safe and practicable.
Right. So, firstly, he says you shall keep to the starboard side of the channel as far as safe and practicable. Obviously, he is talking of UKC, other factors, whatever required, other navigational dangers which are there. Now, the idea here of keeping to starboard is that you will pass port to port in a narrow channel. In a head-on situation also it is very similar to that, where you would actually in a head-on situation alter course to starboard and pass port to port. So same thing here in a narrow channel, keep to the starboard side of the channel so that you will end up passing port to port. Right? In a narrow channel, in case you have a head-on situation, the head-on rule will still apply. You would still have to alter course to starboard. Of course, considering the safety parameters very much there. Right? So in case you drift on and come to the center of the channel or get into the port side of the channel and there is a ship coming, as per head-on rule you are supposed to go to starboard, and as per narrow channel also you are supposed to keep to starboard of the channel. So it is very much within our framework of the rules. Right? Yeah, next.
B. A vessel of less than 20 meters in length or a sailing vessel shall not impede the passage of a vessel which can safely navigate only within a narrow channel or fairway.
Now, if the channel is narrow, then obviously a vessel following a narrow channel is doing so because he has got obstructions on either side of the channel. Right? And if he has got obstruction on either side of the channel, he is not able to move as required. Hence, this comes in that a vessel which is less than 20 meters or a sailing vessel shall not impede the passage of a vessel which can navigate within a narrow channel. And what are the meaning of the word not to impede? I think we had discussed in Rule 8, 8F1, F2. We had discussed there not to impede. So if you wish, you can go back to that discussion, have a look at that video and get more clarity on what is the meaning of not to impede. So the idea is these vessels, small vessels which will be crossing a narrow channel, have been given dual obligation under 8F1 and either F2 or F3, whatever is applicable. Right? So I won't want to say that the vessel in a narrow channel has a right of way. No, it doesn't have a right of way, but the other vessels are given more obligation not to impede their passage. Which are the other vessel meaning those which are crossing a narrow channel. Right? Yeah. Next.
C. A vessel engaged in fishing shall not impede the passage of any other vessel navigating within a narrow channel or fairway.
Now remember one thing, a vessel which is engaged in fishing can do fishing in a narrow channel. It doesn't say that the fishing vessel shall not fish or not catch fish in the narrow channel or not come into the narrow channel. So if a vessel is fishing within a narrow channel, again he has the obligation of not to impede the passage of a vessel which can navigate within the channel. Right? So now you can see here, because of the restrictions which a vessel navigating in a narrow channel will have, the other vessels are being given more and more obligations to keep out of the way. Again, instead of saying out of the way, it should be so that they don't impede the safe passage. Because, or you could say out of the way, but it won't say that they are obliged to give way. Give way is a different system. I mean, give way is a different term than stand on vessel and give way vessel. That concept doesn't apply when we talk of not to impede. Right? Yeah.
D. A vessel shall not cross a narrow channel or fairway if such crossing impedes the passage of a vessel which can safely navigate only within such channel or fairway. The later vessel may use sound signal prescribed in Rule 34D if in doubt as to the intention of a crossing vessel.
Now here he is just going one step ahead and saying that any vessel which is crossing a narrow channel shall again not impede the passage of the vessel which can safely navigate in the narrow channel. And he also says that when in doubt, use rule 34D. That means 5 short and rapid blast to clarify the intention of the other vessel. Right?
E1. In a narrow channel of airway, when overtaking can take place only if the vessel to be overtaken has to take action to permit safe passage, the vessel intended to overtake shall indicate her intention by sounding the appropriate signal prescribed in Rule 34C1. The vessel to be overtaken shall, if in agreement, sound the appropriate signal prescribed in Rule 34C2 and take steps to permit the safe passage. If in doubt, she may sound signal prescribed in Rule 34D.
Right. So now here he's talking of vessels which are overtaking in a narrow channel. So let's just have a look. First and foremost is it possible? Is overtaking possible? If it is possible, then let us say vessel A is overtaking vessel B. Right? Let's say he has assessed that there is sufficient room and I can overtake him. Provided B decides to be alert, B decides to go a little more to the port or whatever in this case because of overtaking. It could also be the other way around. Instead of this, it could also be that A is here, he has come to the port because he wants to overtake. B is keeping to starboard of the channel, right? But A would like B to be alert that he is overtaking B and maybe can go a little more to starboard. So for that purpose, A is supposed to give sound signals, right? So he will give 2 prolonged followed by 1 short blast to indicate that I am overtaking you on your starboard side, right? The previous case. Or in this case, if he wants to overtake on the port side, then he will give 2 prolonged followed by 2 short blasts. So A will give that sound signal to B, indicating that I intend to overtake you on your port side. Right? Now, if B is in agreement with A, then he will sound 1 prolonged, 1 short, 1 prolonged, 1 short to say that I agree. Only after this agreement is reached, A will overtake B. Right? Now, generally in a narrow channel, if you have a pilot on board, then the pilot should be in communication on the VHF, and they would have decided this. In that case, they may not sound the sound signals. The practical side of it may not. Right? If today with AIS you are very sure of the identity of the other vessel, you could still, especially in a narrow channel, if you are navigating, then it will not be only duty officer, master will also be on the bridge. Master may decide to use the VHF to call him and confirm. However, despite AIS, you need to remember one thing, that even if A is calling B and it is confirmed that the name and call sign of B is known and he is the one who is answering, he may not really be answering. What if there is some other vessel here somewhere, vessel C, who is hearing the conversation? That means when A calls B on VHF, B doesn't reply. Second time A calls B, and if this is causing some irritation or some issue to C, he may reply as B. Could be only to play mischief, could be anything. He may reply as B. What I'm trying to tell you is, though AIS gives you positive identification, name and call sign of the other vessel, when you call the other vessel, you are not very sure. It is not 100% or a fail-proof system that B is replying. Somebody else could reply in the name of B. That cannot be checked. Right? So, ideally, you should be using the sound signals to overtake in a narrow channel if you don't have a pilot on board. Ideally. It could additionally be substituted by VHF, fine. But ideal is sound signals. Right? Clear what I'm talking of? Of course, it also says that if B is in any doubt to the intentions of A, then he will sound 5 short and rapid blast to check it out that, or to tell him that look, I am not sure what you are doing. So he will probably repeat his sound signals again. Clear? Right.
This rule does not relieve the overtaking vessel of her obligation under Rule 13.
Now under Rule 13, we saw that the vessel which is overtaking is obliged to keep clear of the vessel being overtaken. And here also he says that the vessel which is overtaking is not being relieved of his duty under Rule 13 to keep clear of the vessel being overtaken. Right? He has to keep clear of vessel being overtaken. Only thing here is now there is an agreement. B has agreed that he is going to allow A to overtake. How he will do that? Maybe he reduces the speed marginally. Maybe he goes a little bit to starboard. There would be other things like interaction, etc. coming into play. But interaction is beyond the scope of this session. So I will not go into interactions here. In seamanship or something else, when we discuss, we can look into interactions. But interactions could also be coming in, and that could be one of the reasons why B may want to reduce speed, because at reduced speed, interaction is less. Right? I won't go too much into interactions here. We'll leave it for the seamanship class. Anything else in this rule?
Sir, F.
Yeah.
A vessel nearing a bend or an area of a narrow channel or fairway where other vessel may be obscured by an intervening obstruction shall navigate with particular alertness and caution and shall sound the appropriate signal prescribed in Rule 34E.
Right. So let us say further up here there is a bend, and as you are going up from here, you shall sound the signals as prescribed in Rule 34E to indicate your presence to the other vessel which may be coming down from the other side. You cannot see. Maybe if it was going ahead and you were seeing it, different issue. But even if you were seeing it, after he is turned around, you are not sure of the correct position and speed, etc. Though AIS could give you that information. Right? With AIS, you could get information of the other vessels also coming down. However, we don't want to rely 100% on AIS and say if AIS is not giving data, it doesn't mean ships are not existing. Maybe the ship's AIS is not working, maybe it has been put off for whatever reasons. Right? So you shall sound the appropriate sound signal for this and indicate that you are nearing a bend. Of course, same thing will apply to him. He also should indicate that he is nearing the bend. The idea is keep each other aware of your presence. Right? That's it. Anything else?
G.
Okay.
Any vessel shall, if the circumstances of the case admit, avoid anchoring in a narrow channel.
Yeah. Now, obviously, in a narrow channel, if you drop anchor, you are going to cause obstruction to the other vessels. So it says, why does it say circumstances of the case admit? There might be circumstances where you may have to drop anchor. Right? Emergencies apart, there could still be some circumstances. Some channels, narrow channels, may not have night navigation. You want to anchor for the night. Different channels could have different requirements. But as far as possible, you should not anchor and cause an obstruction to the other vessels going up and down. Right? If you have time, then you should try and get to an area where even here certain areas would be marked for anchoring. You should try and get into those areas and then drop anchor. Okay? Right. That's it. Anything else? Yeah.
Sir, if restricted visibility is there in narrow channel, so we will be sounding one prolonged blast, and with it, when overtaking, we will also sound the sound signals.
Do you think one prolonged blast would interfere with the overtaking signals? Overtaking is two prolonged followed by one shot or two prolonged followed by two shot. Right? And acknowledgement also is one prolonged, one shot, one prolonged, one shot. So it should not interfere. The two signals won't interfere. Right? Restricted visibility, you are expected to sound your signals. One prolonged blast. Right? You're supposed to sound that. Also in restricted visibility, even otherwise you will have your radar working. So that will also give you an idea of other ships around you. But you are still expected to sound the signals.
So
Yeah.
what is difference between narrow channel and fairway?
See, a fairway need not be narrow. Fairway basically is an approach area which has been identified as a fairway to approach a particular port. That need not be narrow. But a narrow channel is narrow. The term narrow channel itself is expressing that it is a channel where the width may not be sufficient to navigate safely or to navigate with convenience. Right? You got to have more caution. In a fairway, the width of the fairway channel need not be restricted. Right? Yeah. Any other questions? Anything else? Yeah.
Sir, in the narrow channels, if I have to overtake a vessel, and if the other vessel is in agreement, she will sound one prolong, one short, one prolong, one short. And if the other vessel is not in agreement, then what she will sound?
Well, if she is not in agreement, she will not sound anything, provided she has understood the intention. That means she has understood it is, let's say, 2 prolong followed by 2 short in this case, which means he wants to overtake on the port side. If this person B is not in agreement, he doesn't want A to overtake, then he only has to keep quiet. There is no sound signal to say that he is not in agreement. And there is no such sound signal specified. A cannot assume that I have given 2 prolong followed by 2 short and I can now overtake on the port side. You can overtake only if the other person has agreed. If the other person has not agreed, you can't overtake. Isn't it? Yes or no?
Yes, yes.
Clear? Right? So there is nothing such as tacit acceptance. If you decide to keep quiet, that means it is yes, no. It's not that way. This is explicit acceptance. That means B is very explicitly giving you sound signals and saying yes, I am in agreement, only then you can overtake. You cannot assume that I have told him and that's it, now I will overtake. That is not acceptable. If he doesn't say anything, the conclusion is he is not in agreement, you should not be overtaken. Right? Any other questions, anybody? Yeah? Okay, with that we finish off with rule 9. Thank you.